welcome to Coffee and Careers. It is 3 o'clock and we are doing our live Q&A and talking about career search during a crisis. So thank you guys all so much for joining in today. Actually, our special guest is my boss, the senior director of the Career Center, Mike Bishop, and he'll be talking today about career search during a crisis. So I know that some of you seniors probably that are joining in on this, that maybe this has been a tough time for you in the job market, and so we definitely want to talk about this conversation, so please stay on for the next 30 minutes or so. Also, some resources that we have. You guys can make appointments on Handshake. You can also, we have a newsletter that just went out yesterday, so check your guys' Lancer mails as those are in your inbox of a newsletter. So let's just get started, everyone that's been joining in. Real quick, let me just kind of tell about the topic. We're going to be talking about career search during crisis. This is my boss. He is the senior director of the Career Center, and I'm so happy just to hear from his expertise about this time. So thank you, Mike, for just jumping on this. I know we've been having some technical difficulties, but let's just get started, okay? So first question, how do you think COVID-19 has shaped the job search?
Well, so we all know we are in this is a historical time. Unemployment's gone from under 4% to over 20% in 4 weeks. 4 weeks, you guys. That is crazy. Here's the deal with employers. They are now slow, and they've slowed their pace, and that's just the fact. And both with full-time jobs and internships. I just read something today that said 30 to 40% of the internships have been put on hold. So that's happening. Here's the deal. Students, employers, we're all at an unknown period of time. So things are changing every day as to what we know about this, what should be opened, how do we move forward. So everybody's kind of in a situation of what's next. Good news for students, your degree is helpful. It will always be helpful. So it's good you got that. And we know a couple areas are opening up quite a bit in terms of employment. We know healthcare is, we know manufacturing is, and we know technology is. And there are obviously a number of e-commerce opportunities that are coming up. So all of those things are fluid, but again, every day is a little bit different. It's different for the employers, different for the students. So that kind of enables a partnership where we're each learning to be patient with one another.
Yeah, no, definitely. I know I've seen in my research that the most impacted, I think, the job markets are hospitality, food and beverage, and the arts and the entertainment. But which actually is surprising, some of the ones that have the smallest drops actually in posting the jobs is pharmaceutical and medication devices, healthcare and services, and actually nonprofits too. So I think that those are kind of just interesting to see in the job market.
Yep.
All right, Michael. So what are some things that you think students should be doing now during this time?
For sure, a couple things. Absolutely. Number one, I think it's really important, students, that you are maintaining a disciplined schedule. Very key right now. It's not just a willy-nilly look because unemployment's low, because it's so high. You need to have a set schedule so you can keep your momentum going. Momentum means a lot. Understand the restrictions that are going on where you live. Each state, each county, each city may have certain restrictions as to places where you decide to put an application in. So at least understand that, understand what the county is saying about what the virus is doing and where you may be eligible and where you may not, where you may be. Be adaptable. You know, you might not get into the perfect place. So sometimes you got to have just room to move. And don't panic. You know, you want to keep your name, I believe, in front of the folks that you're applying to. So whether it's a note, whether it's a communication on LinkedIn, the one thing you don't want to do is get down. And so keep your name in front of those folks And again, if you have a disciplined schedule, I think you'll be able to do that because you'll be journaling things down, you'll be keeping a record, and it's more important than ever. Trust me, I stake my life on this one. You want to have a daily schedule of what you're doing, a predictable schedule, so you just keep things in order in what's a really tough time. That will help you to be more competitive. And again, it will allow you to have a good record of the things you're doing each day that you can look back on.
I love that. It's kind of also just kind of keeping accountable if you are writing those things down and if you weren't productive, but just having those set schedules. I think that's a really good point that you brought up, Mike.
Yeah, 4 weeks ago it was easy because
Right.
a lot of people want it. It's games changed. Games change, so that means we have to change, and part of a disciplined schedule that will make it things most helpful.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, everyone that has been joining in, thank you guys so much for joining in. This is Coffee and Careers, a live Q&A, and this is my boss, Mike Bishop, the Senior Director of the Career Center. And we're just talking about, career searching during a crisis. And so some of you guys might be having certain questions as you guys might be looking in the job market right now. So please, we're here to answer your questions. So please go ahead and ask any questions that you guys might have about the job market right now and during the career search. So all right, Mike, another question. So how can students focus on their professional development?
So good question, and it's something that should be thought about. Number one, this might be a good time to look at some online certifications. Mm-hmm. There's a site I'm learning a little bit about. I think it's called Udemy, Udemy, where there's a lot of opportunities quickly to gain skills, which I think is good. Number two, again, stuff you'd expect to hear from Career Center people. Get your LinkedIn up to date, get your resume up to date, research those companies on LinkedIn and see what their stance is on the virus and how they're handling it, understand that. One thing I would tell you to do, most of you that are listening probably have been on mock interviews, but now we're doing all of these online. Well, guess what? Most organizations are conducting now online interviews. So my real true suggestion is for you to sign up for a mock interview and do it online. The best thing we can do is we can give you feedback on how you're coming across, how you look, what the background is, whatever. It's something that I think could be really, really helpful. So don't lose me on that one. I think it's important. And then the final piece, and I've been thinking about this a lot, is, this might be the time to look at grad school, actually. Several years back, I sat on a panel at Cal Baptist. Every panel I sit in, I happen to be the oldest, so darn it. But here's the deal. The question came up to the panel of 15, and most of the people on the panel were mid-30s and 40s. What do you regret most in your career right now? What do you regret? I'm going to tell you, 13 of the 14 people said that I did not get my grad school education earlier. So I'm thinking, you know what? This might be the time. This might be the time if you're thinking, I don't know if I wanted to go to grad school or not. Maybe you should sign up now and get her done. In a year or two, you can get that master's degree. There are PhD opportunities. Why not at least look at that? If the job market's not going to be good, and we've all said together, look, things are a bit unknown, then maybe you just giddy up, get signed up into grad school, get that advanced degree, and that way you'll have it when things get a little bit more normal. So that's what I'd be doing.
That's good advice. I just kind of want to go off on that a little bit and say a few things that I think as well. But before I do, if the people that are joining and you don't know what's kind of going on, we're just here, the Career Center, we're just talking about career search during a crisis. So I asked Mike, how can students focus on their professional development? And I just want to chime in a few things that you said. Highly recommend doing those mock interviews. I've heard a lot of students actually, find a great resource in that, actually, because we've done some people have done in-person interviews, and now doing it virtual, it's a definitely different game.
Rebecca, we tell them how they look, right? Like, right, there's a light growing out of my head. So ideally, if I was doing an interview, this would not be exactly the right setting, right?
No, right.
Right. So um, we can tell you that. We can tell you if you're coming across wrong. We can tell you if it's a good look. These are things you ought to know
Right.
that we can give you great feedback on.
Yeah, because we would rather give you feedback on a mock interview instead of going into a real interview and then not knowing some of the etiquettes that you need to know. So some other things
Right.
is LinkedIn learnings. There's actually 16 free LinkedIn learnings that you guys can be looking at. So if you guys haven't looked into those, there's some really great resources for that. And it's just kind of what Mike was talking about is honing in on your skills. This is a perfect time because at the end of this, employers could look at you and say, how did you spend your time during COVID-19? And so that's kind of what, Mike was saying about, being productive and having a set schedule and also learning those skills. And also I just want to lastly, just kind of put this in mind. Yes, it's LinkedIn profile is really important, but don't forget about Handshake. That profile is just as important to complete it. So they're saying that 80% of employers or 80% of students who fill out their profile and it's completed, actually employers will reach out and message. So that is something else that you could be doing to help your in professional development. So I just wanted to add those few things in. Any other things that you want to add in, Mike, before we continue on to the next question?
No, I think you're good. Let's move forward.
All right. If able to secure an interview, what questions should job seekers ask companies?
Good question, because we're in a different time, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are probably two or three I'd ask. I'd ask them about what remote guidelines they've implemented in their organization and what they are. I would ask them about their current organization's culture. What is it looking like right now? And then probably I would ask, because you should ask this. If you didn't ask this, they'd probably think, why aren't you asking this? How has the pandemic affected their overall strategy and company goals or organization goals? So you ought to know that. And if you didn't ask that, it kind of be shame on you because it's an obvious question to answer. And again, what is a historical time? So I think you should go right to it. How are you running your organization? What's the remote job? How have the company goals or the organization's goals and objectives shifted during this time? You want to know that. That will, you're asking those questions that you'll come across sharp. And that's what you want to do. You are going to have to be better than everybody else this time. Because if you're not better, you will not win because the jobs are so sparse. So you got to be point on. I mean, you got to shoot the ball and hit all net. It's got to be all net.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I think that's really important to ask about the strategy because maybe they're not doing anything. I think it's also important to see how they're supporting their staff during this time. And something else that I was reading up on is actually thinking about looking and researching how their stock has changed and their financial standings and then bringing up if there is anything and seeing how the impact is on the organization. Kind of like with a strategy and whatnot. So that's something I've seen in my research is to look at the stock and their stock changes and the financial situation as well.
Yeah, if they have stock.
Again, right. Yeah, if they have stock.
Right? Yeah. I think, again, intuitive questions about what the organization is doing in this time would be appreciated. And remember, too, to the students, look, if they are taking the time to interview you during this time, they are dead on serious about hiring. I mean, why would you mess with this if you weren't serious about it? So that's why, game on. If you get to this point, game on, and you want to be as sharp as all get out.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's great advice. So anyone who has just joined us, I just kind of want to take a break real quick and say welcome. Thank you guys so much for joining this live Q&A with the Career Center. And we're just talking about how to find a job during a tough time. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to comment them down below. Don't be shy. We'd love to answer your questions that you might be having. So please go ahead and put those down below. And then I'll continue to keep asking Mike some questions. But if you have any, please go ahead and put those down below. All right. Mike, how can job seekers best leverage their network during this time?
Well, I think number one, it's a time to reconnect with those that you have not connected with that are in your network. But number two is it's probably time to expand out a little bit. Again, it's part of the adaptability piece. So you want to widen the opportunities because there just aren't as many as before. So now is the time to look at connections you may have on LinkedIn and look for those second connections. Start inquiring that way. Do your research on organizations that are posting, set Google alerts. You want to be on point when something comes up. But again, now is the time. If you had certain questionable folks you hadn't reached out before, now might be the time to reach out a little bit more. Or if you are just trying to stay so defined in a particular area, it's time to widen that horizon a bit.
Yeah.
So that there are more opportunities. Because again, you're going to need to do that because there's just not as much as there was 3 weeks ago. Isn't that crazy? Crazy.
Yeah.
I mean,
a lot has changed. I feel like day by day it's changing.
As I keep thinking about it, that's what I really want to say to the students. And our students are so good. It's just changed, you guys, so quickly in 3 or 4 weeks. That's why you want to be game on and just keep writing down that word, adaptable. Be adaptable. Be adaptable. Be ready to move, but be adaptable where you need to be.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think some other, like, a few things that I've just been thinking about and just telling the students is doing informational interviews. I think this is a perfect time to do informational interviews, if talking to certain people, trying to get to broaden your network, specifically on Handshake as well. There is on LinkedIn, but on Handshake, you can also go into the students tab and you can find tons of different students that are throughout the whole United States and ask and just kind of look at their profiles and reach out to them. So this is the perfect time to do those informational interviews. We actually have a tip sheet on Handshake under resources. So if you want to see kind of a worksheet a handout for that, we have that as well. But also this could be also a good time to also think about asking about references and
good point.
Asking references and referrals during this time.
I think that's good.
Yeah. Anything else you wanted to add on to that?
Well, I wanted to add more. Back in my day, a long time ago, I was a sales guy back in 1979. Yikes. Most people weren't born then. On this call. The best salespeople aren't necessarily the ones that have the gift of gab. That comes in time, but the ones that are great usually are the ones that are reaching out to a lot of people. I mean, you can sell more if you talk to more. So in this time, again, don't narrow your focus, expand it, talk to a lot of folks, because that will enhance and grow your opportunities. Even again, if they don't fit nice and neatly into a drawer, this is a time to meet and talk to as many people as possible.
Yeah, no, definitely. All right. For all the people that have been joining us, thank you guys so much for joining in. Again, just wanted to reiterate, this is a live Q&A, and we're talking about a career search during a crisis. So if you guys have any questions down below, please go ahead and ask those questions below, and we'd be more than willing to answer any questions that you have. So don't be shy. We're here where we want to answer your questions. Or if you have any comments down below, go ahead and put those. We just have a few more questions just to ask Mike, so we'll just continue on if no one has any other questions. So in what ways should job seekers stay active in their job search, even if they don't hear back from their recruiters?
Staying active in the job search?
Yeah, so how do they stay active? Yeah. If they don't hear back from, like, the recruiter.
Well, number one, I think the best way is to be patient, actually, because again, Rebecca, and we pointed to this, look, recruiters aren't going to get back to you as quickly simply because things change. So don't panic about that. But the best way to stay in touch is, it might be a written note. It might be something on LinkedIn, just a note on LinkedIn. It might be just that phone call, just so you don't lose complete touch with the employer. I mean, you don't want to be out of sight, but you want to be able to message them so they'll recall you when hopefully things turn around. I mean, here's the good news. Well, I'm not sure if it's good news. You know, when the Spanish flu hit back in 1918 or whenever this last thing happened in our country, the economy actually bounced back a bit. So that's going to be our hope here as well, that the economy will bounce back. I mean, we don't know for sure, but we're hoping that it will, so that employers will move quickly to get back to where they were. The other thing too is, again, as we've talked about, you know, journaling your day and having a plan, I just would tell all students, you know, in scripture, we're told to consider how to strengthen and love one another, because that just doesn't come naturally. We'd like to think that does for all of us, but it doesn't. I mean, when push comes to shove, it doesn't. Scripture tells us to think about it. Same with the job search. Same with how you re-engage with employers. Every day, as you think about those 10 or 20 or 30 folks that you want to make point with, think about it. Don't just move forward and rattle the keys of the computer. Think about approaches with each employer, learn about them, and be strategic so that actually every communication path, every communication opportunity is a solid one for you. Sometimes we get ahead of ourselves and we miss an opportunity simply because we haven't taken the time to consider how to best approach them.
Yeah, well, really, that's amazing advice. I love that, Mike. We actually did get a question, and it says, if my internship was frozen, should I still keep in contact with my recruiter?
Sure. And a lot of them have been. Again, here's the deal. A lot of internships have been frozen. A lot of them have been just eliminated. But again, our hope is that the economy comes back quickly when this is over. And if it does, if it jumps back quickly, there are going to be opportunities that jump out quickly. And so we're going to need to be on those. So again, just staying in touch, being creative with that communication without being a nuisance is wise to do.
All right. So should students be staying up to date with the news as well?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you have to, because if you're not, you're going to be ignorant of what's going on, and it's going to help you not to waste time. So, you know, whether it's listening to the doctors, whether it's listening to the politicians, I happen to think in Riverside County, you know, we're listening to the county folks. You can go on Riverside County's site and get up to date stuff, what's going on with the COVID virus, right? You can do that in San Bernardino County too. You can see where it's expanding. You can see different announcements they put out. Like today, they put out that under certain circumstances, people can now play golf and walk in parks and hike and ride bikes. But you've got to be aware of the rules that surround that. But if you're not on their side and you're not listening, you become ignorant of those things. And if you're ignorant, you're not going to do yourself any good. So staying in touch with the news is wise. Don't get married to it because it can get quite depressing. But right. just enough to know what's going on nationally, what's going on in your state, and what's going on locally. Yes, that's really wise to do.
Okay. We have a question that came in, and this is it a good idea to apply to internships right now or wait?
If you see an opportunity that's posted, yes, I would apply. And I'd probably inquire too. Where you don't see an opportunity, it doesn't hurt to message an employer and ask. Because here's the deal. You don't know what you don't know unless you ask. So unless you ask people that question, then you're going to sit there and not know. So you might as well ask. The worst anyone can say into you is, we're not doing anything at this time, and okay, that's fine. At least you know, and you can push on.
Yeah. All right. I wanted to see if there was any other questions. We're getting to our last question. If anyone has any questions, go ahead and put those down below. I'm going to ask Mike this last question. So if there's anything that you've been wanting to ask Mike about this topic, please go ahead and put that down in the comment section below. So Mike, if there's one thing that a student should do right now after we're done with this live event, what would that be? Just one thing.
We've touched on it, but I'll say it again, and I stake my life on this, okay? have a plan. It is now much harder and much more competitive. Have a planner, journal your day. Every time you do something, write it down. If an idea comes to mind, write it down, have it in front of you, open it every day, have a record of what you've accomplished. So when you do that, it will help you to be more pinpointed. It will help you to be sharper the next day and looking for the job that you're hoping to win. Again, I get this. It is harder right now. It is hard. But the one thing you want to do is take steps to at least make your job search more palatable and to look for victories in the job search. And I guarantee that if you're planning your day and you're journaling things down and you have a record of what you're doing, here's the deal. You'll feel more productive, which mentally and emotionally that will feel better if you are, and it will help you save steps for the next day when you go at it again. When you go at it again, more opportunities are better. Remember, don't just sharpshoot. Feel free to go after it hard, but just take a record of everything you're doing.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mike. I just wanted to say a few resources, and then if you had anything else like to add, just a few things like I've mentioned. There was a newsletter that went out yesterday, and you should be checking your Lancer mail for that. Definitely, there's some great information for current jobs, opportunities in there. Also with current job opportunities as well, on Handshake, they have companies that are hiring. And so if you want to check that out, it's just joinhandshake.com/students/who's hiring. So check out that as well. They have some companies there. We have walk-in hours Monday and Wednesday, 1 to 3 virtual. You can find where the link is in that news, so we send another e-blast out today and then also on our website. So if you need your resume looked at or your cover letter or anything like that, we would be more than willing to help you guys during this time. So those are just a few things, that make the appointments. Like Mike said, make those appointments for that mock interview. It's so vital during this time to get this experience. So anything else, Mike, that maybe we
let me add one more thing to the students, and I'm probably speaking to the seniors and juniors. You know, if you want to chat with any of us, please do. You can make an appointment with me anytime. You can go 15 minutes or 20 minutes. Share with me the victories you got going. Share with me the struggles. Maybe I can give you a good idea that will be helpful. Maybe not. But I guarantee you it's going to be time well spent. We're doing it online. We're doing virtual. And if you just need to take a breath and say, you know what, I'm going to call up that grandpa and I'm going to talk to him, by golly, then I'm happy to talk to you and try to help you out. There are different lenses looking at this situation. Make sure you're taking advantage of talking to different people, getting their insight into approaches, and that way you'll have more to work with. And I think that will be helpful as you do this. So we appreciate talking with you guys. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mike, for just jumping on this live Q&A. Thank you so much for your expertise on this topic. So we'll be back next week at 3 p.m. So join us next Tuesday. Thank you guys so much. Have a good rest of your day. Bye.
Have a great day.